The Secret Box by Whitaker Ringwald. Chapter 4. Ethan. Fact. Strapping tape is stronger than masking tape because it has these filaments that are made from fiberglass. Masking tape was invented back in the 1930s to help auto painters paint clean lines. Most people think those facts are boring. My brain is loaded with them. I sat next to Jax on the bench. Using her fingernails, she loosened one edge of the tape. She'd gotten the package without us having to break any laws, and it looked like we might not get grounded this time. But why was she peeling so slowly? She never did anything slowly. Want to use my knife? I asked, pulling my Swiss Army knife from my pocket. No thanks. She tossed the first piece of strapping tape aside. Then she paused, her fingers lingering over the next piece. I think she was savoring the moment. I always did the same thing before scratching a Christmas lottery ticket. Until the truth was revealed, anything was possible. I wiped my forehead with my sleeve. The bench was shaded by an elm tree, but I'd worked up a sweat during the bike ride. Even though summer had just begun, it was already hot. According to that article I'd read about global warming, our local meteorologist predicted temperatures higher than normal. Weather patterns were changing all over the world. Did you know that the last 2 decades were the hottest in 400 years? Jack said, still picking with her fingernail. Sunlight glinted off the army knife. It was called the Swiss Champ, one of the most popular, because it had almost everything: a can opener, a wood saw, a magnifying glass. It even had a fish scaler. My name was engraved on it. You sure you don't want to use it? Jax ran out of patience with the tape and ripped the paper. Ouch! She said, holding out her finger. A perfect red line formed across the tip. I hate paper cuts! She winced and turned away as the first drops of blood oozed out. Ethan, she pleaded. Jax could never be a doctor. She hates blood. The worst time was when we were riding our bikes home from school. What in the heck? The worst time was when we'd been riding our bikes home from school a couple of years ago, and she fell off and gashed her knee on a rock. The blood drenched her pants, and she got so grossed out she vomited. I helped by wrapping my t-shirt around her knee. Blood didn't bother me. I'd been cursed with nosebleeds most of my life, so I was used to it. It's strange because Jax can do just about anything without worrying or getting freaked out. It doesn't make sense that blood would be a problem. No one else in the family is like that. Mom says it's a phobia. I grabbed some repair tape from my bike kit and wound it around her finger. Thanks, she said, color returning to her face. No problem. I sat back on the bench. How about a drum roll? She jabbed me with her elbow. Come on, do a drum roll. I glanced around to make sure no one was watching. Then I rolled my tongue and tried, but a bunch of spit flew out. Jax giggled. That sounds more like a fart. You do it like this. She rolled her tongue and smacked her palms against the bench. Her drum roll was so loud a few people turned and looked. Then she tore the rest of the paper and tossed it aside. A metal box lay on Jax's lap, about the size of a small jewelry box with a little screen set into the top. Looks like an LED screen, I said. Do you see a card or a note? I searched around our feet and under the bench in case something had fallen out. Nothing. Maybe it's inside. Jax tried to open the box, but there was no obvious opening and no hinges. You try, she said, handing it to me. I ran my fingers along the box and found a seam, perceptible only by touch. Then I found something else. It's a button, I said, pressing it. We both gasped as the screen lit up. Jax and I leaned close. A message appeared. Attempt 1 of 10. Those words disappeared, and another message appeared. 190 miles from the right spot. Jax looked at me, her eyebrows raised. There's a right spot? What does that mean? Then that message disappeared and the word goodbye took its place. The screen went black. Jax looked at me, her eyebrows raised. There's a right spot? What does that mean? Then that message disappeared and the word goodbye took its place. Jax grabbed the box and pushed the button. The screen lit up with a slightly different message. Attempt 2 of 10. 190 miles from the right spot. Goodbye. Weird, she whispered. She pushed again. Attempt 3 of 10. Maybe you shouldn't keep pushing it, I said. She always does that. Pushes buttons over and over as if it will make a difference. Like in the elevator or at the vending machine. It drives me crazy. The potato chip bag will not drop any faster. She pushed again. Attempt 4 of 10. I don't get it, she complained. Wait! Attempt 5 of 10. 190 miles from the right spot. Goodbye. I covered the button with my hand. It said attempt 5 of 10. That means we only have 5 attempts left. 5 attempts to do what? I shrugged. To open it? Oh, that makes sense. Her cheeks were a bit red and sweat dotted her nose. I wonder what's inside. She shook the box gently. Nothing rattled or moved. Maybe we can pry it open with your knife. I tried to stick the blade into the seam, but it wouldn't fit. Did your dad have an axe? She asked. I don't think so. I'd never seen my dad chop wood. Our fireplace was gas. I put the knife back into my pocket. I think you'll have to solve the puzzle if you want to get it open. Jack smiled. I'm pretty good at puzzles. She set the box back on her lap. Okay, let's figure this out. It said we're not in the right spot. That means the box has to be in a certain spot before it will open. But how can a box know where it is? It must have a GPS unit. Fact. GPS stands for Global Positioning System. So then how do we find the right spot? We sat in silence for a few moments, staring at the strange birthday present. A woman and her German shepherd walked past. A jogger stopped to tie his shoe. I tried to come up with an answer. We could go to different places and press the button, I said. But that seems random. And the GPS reading only gives us distance. It doesn't give us direction. I bet there's some sort of formula we could use. Formula? She asked. You mean math? Yeah, math. I frowned because neither Jax nor I liked math. Forget math. I'm going to get an X. Jax threw the paper and tape into the garbage can, but she saved the upper left-hand corner where Juniper Vandergrift's return address was written. She folded it carefully and tucked it into her pocket. Then she set the metal box into her bike basket, concealing it with her purple jacket. We rode back to her house. As soon as we got there, we dumped the bikes on the lawn, then stood in front of Mr. Smith's house. The garage sale was in full swing. He's got an axe in his woodpile, Jack said, on the side of the house. I don't think hacking at the box is a good idea, I pointed out. What if you break whatever's inside? I won't break anything, she said. I'll just whack the corner off, just enough to get a peek. She stood real close and lowered her voice. Okay, so you go over there and ask Mr. Smith a bunch of questions to distract him while I get the axe. Why don't you just ask him if you can borrow it? Hello, he hates me, remember? He caught me cutting roses off his bush and didn't care that they were for Mom. She gave me a little shove. Go distract him. This is important. I hate doing stuff like this. I'd be perfectly happy to never cause a distraction. Pulling my baseball cap real low, I walked into Mr. Smith's yard. What would I say? Would I pretend to be looking for something, like old vinyl records or comic books? Stuff was strewn all over the grass. Wooden chairs, a rocking horse, a croquet set. A card table wobbled beneath the weight of vases, books, and mismatched plates. Mr. Smith was talking to a man about a rusty lawnmower. Sounded like they were bickering over price. Crash! I whipped around. The card table had toppled over. A toddler was standing next to it. He scrunched up his face and began to wail. His mom picked him up as Mr. Smith hurried over to see what had happened. The distraction had nothing to do with me. Jax raced around the house, then reappeared with an axe in her hand. I suppose that running with an axe is just as dangerous as running with scissors, but she didn't seem to care. She grabbed the box from her bike basket, then raced into the garage. As Mr. Smith tried to bully the mom into paying for the broken vases, I made my escape. I expected to find the box all mangled, but when I got inside the garage, Jax was holding the box. The axe lay on the floor. I couldn't do it, she said, her face flushed. I had this strange feeling I couldn't hurt it. Hurt it? That seemed like a weird thing to say. You mean dent it? What if I ruined whatever's inside? She ran her hand over the box. What did you say about a formula? I said that I bet there's some sort of math formula that will help us solve the puzzle. She peered out the garage door. We need to find someone who can help. We both took a deep breath and at the same time said, Tyler. Then we cringed, because in a perfect world, we'd never have to see or talk to Tyler, my older brother. Chapter 5. Ethan. Fact. Scientists have confirmed that some people are good at math. It has to do with this thing called number sense, but I don't have it, neither does Jax. But my brother Tyler has about as much of it as a person can have. Jax and I equally disliked Tyler, and it wasn't just because he was obnoxious. There was the whole rude thing and the ego bigger than his head thing. But Jax only had to deal with Tyler on a part-time basis. I lived with the guy. It wasn't easy growing up in the shadow of a genius who constantly reminded you that he was a genius. Hey, noob, don't trip on my mathlete trophy. Hey, idiot, hand me my science Olympian trophy so I can polish it. Hey, brain snap, better protect your eyes from the awesome gleam of my chess trophy. Our dad had built shelves in the office just to hold Tyler's trophies. I once won a trophy for T-ball. We'd lost every game, but the parents gave each of us a trophy because we'd tried hard, and they didn't want us to feel bad about ourselves. Just once I'd like to win a trophy that wasn't given to me out of pity. A trophy I'd actually earned. I know it sounds pathetic, but if it could be bigger than any of Tyler's trophies, that would be great. We biked to my house, which was about a mile from Jax's. My parents had the house built with us kids in mind, so there was a family room with a pool table, a shed for our bikes, and a tennis court in the side yard. It was my job to mow the lawn, but a gardener took care of the other stuff. I have no idea how to prune roses. My parents were at work. They own a toy testing company in town. Tyler was up in his room. No surprise. What? He barked as I knocked. A sign taped to his door read, Embrace the zombie apocalypse. If this summer was anything like last summer, he'd spend most of it perched in front of his computer, his skin growing paler by the day. I opened the door and we stepped into his cave. Jax held the box in her arms, concealing it with her coat. The curtains were drawn, so the screen provided the only light, casting its glow on Tyler's hunched shoulders. The voices streaming from the speakers belonged to his gaming friends, who were also locked away in their rooms. Shove off, Tyler grumbled. Jack scrunched her nose. It always smelled bad in there, like sweat and something rotten. Bags of chips littered the carpet, along with soda and energy drink cans. For someone so smart, Tyler sure was a slob. The only things he cleaned were his trophies. I hesitated, because I hated what I was about to say. We need your help. I'm busy. Invasion in progress. His fingers flew across his gaming mouse and keyboard, his legs twitching as if he were running a marathon. Gotcha! A Cyclops head smashed into a pillar. Way to go, a nasal voice said from somewhere in cyberspace. Check your health bar. Did you take damage? Negative. Choosing new weapon. Power axe enabled. Another Cyclops lumbered down a dark tunnel. Tyler took aim with a glowing sword and wham! The head flew across the screen. Tyler snickered, then chugged some soda. The game was called Cyclopsville, and Tyler and his buddies had been developing it all year. It had started as a school project, but it had become an obsession. Tyler created the story and wrote the dialogue. He loved mythology, so he crammed it with all sorts of Greek and Roman monsters. His friend Walker designed the graphics. The other two friends were developing the game engine. Wham! Another Cyclops' head was severed. There's not enough blood. Tyler said into his mic. The blood should coat the ground and walls. Maybe some guts could hang from the ceiling. Can you do that? Sure, Walker's voice replied. Jax and I had agreed on the bike ride over that we wouldn't tell Tyler the truth about where we got the metal box. Neither of us trusted him, and I had nothing to use for blackmail, so if he wanted to turn me in, I wouldn't be able to stop him. Tyler, Jack said, we're serious. We need your help. I have zero interest in your petty problems. I sighed. It was useless. Tyler was lost in his world. He could play all day and all night if my parents let him, and often they did. Only a natural disaster could have forced him from his game, or a boost to his ego. No way. I was not going to flatter my brother. But Jax, as if reading my mind, was ready and willing. Please help us, she pleaded. Then she looked at me and rolled her eyes. Because we're not smart enough to help ourselves. You're so much smarter than us. Tyler's fingers froze. He sat up straight. Hey guys, he told his friends. I need to pause the game for a minute. Prioritization code, family interference. He muted the microphone, then spun around in his chair and pushed his dark hair off his forehead. His t-shirt had sweat stains under the pits and the pi symbol on the front. He stared at us with a dazed expression as his focus turned from the mythic landscape of Cyclopsville to his dark, humid room. It's about time you two acknowledged your intellectual inferiority. Now it was my turn to roll my eyes. After setting her coat aside, Jax held out the box. Its metallic surface reflected Tyler's computer screen. What's that? He asked. I got it at a garage sale, she explained. It won't open, but if you push this button, the screen lights up with a message. It's a puzzle. A puzzle? One of Tyler's eyebrows arched. He was intrigued. His hand darted out, and, before Jax could react, he pushed the button. Attempt 6 of 10, 193 miles from the right spot. Goodbye. Geez, Tyler, you wasted a push, Jax grumbled as she stepped away. Don't do that again. Now we only have 4 pushes left. It's got a GPS unit, I said. We have to go to a pre-programmed place in order for it to open. Tyler curled his upper lip. Duh, that's obvious. Jack shuffled in place, her arms wrapped around the box. So, how would you find the right spot if your only clue is that it's 193 miles away? Tyler snorted. You're interrupting my game for something as easy as that? What a couple of morons. He spun back around and reached for the gaming mouse. I am not a moron, whatever that is, Jack snapped. And neither is Ethan. Why are you always so mean? Why can't you just help us? What's in it for me? Tyler asked, his back to us. Are you going to give me whatever's in the box? No way, Jack said, her grip tightening. Then why should I help you? I wasn't one bit surprised. We should have known better than to ask my brother for help. Being smart didn't have anything to do with being kind or generous. Let's go, I said, heading for the door. No, wait, I want to figure this out. Jack's gaze darted around the room. Oh, I know. I got 2 Starbucks cards for my birthday. You can have them. Caffeine is payment? Tyler spun around. Deal. He held out his palm, fingers wiggling. Jax tucked the box under her arm, reached into her back pocket, and pulled out a thin purple wallet. Then she handed over the Starbucks card. Payment accepted, Tyler said. After grabbing an atlas off his shelf, he pushed aside a bunch of candy bar wrappers to make room on his desk. Gather round, minions, and I shall educate your feeble minds. Jack set the metal box on the bed, and we both leaned over Tyler's shoulders, watching as he searched through the atlas's index until he found a map of the eastern coast of the United States. He rifled through his drawer for a pen, then drew a dot on the map right over Chatham. The key to solving your riddle is geometry. The dot is approximately where I push the button. He grabbed a ruler and took a measurement from the atlas's key. He drew a line out from the dot and into the ocean. And this is 193 miles away, the distance to the right spot. It's in the water? Maybe, he said. Then using a compass, he drew a circle around the Chatham dot with a radius of 193. Somewhere on this circle you'll find what you're looking for. He grabbed his can of soda and took a long drink. Lesson concluded. Now, go play with your little box. He reached for his mouse again. Jax grabbed the atlas. But this circle goes through Massachusetts, Vermont, New York, Pennsylvania. It goes through 6 states. We only have 4 more times to push the button. We can't go to all those states. Is there a way to narrow your search? I asked. Tyler grimaced, as if I'd asked him to give me one of his kidneys. Jeez, didn't either of you take geometry? You'll need another reading, obviously. Where? Jax asked. Somewhere outside of Chatham. Push the button again, and you'll find out how far you are from the right spot. He tapped his fingers on the desk, eager to get back to the game. Then you'll draw another circle. Get it? We both shook our heads. We both shook our heads. What do you mean you don't get it? I went to the same middle school that you guys do. Have they fired all the math teachers? We shook our heads again. Unbelievable. This is the state of our public education system. He drew 2 circles on a piece of paper. The circles will overlap in 2 places. One of those 2 places will be the right spot. Then, with a sneer, he added, Duh. He spun around in his chair, unmuted his microphone, and said, Gentlemen, I have returned. Commence Operation Cyclopticide. Reload from previous checkpoint. Welcome back, Commander. Even though he was a complete jerk, Tyler had a whole mess of friends. Even though I was a nice guy, I didn't. Sometimes it works out that way. Jax picked up a piece of paper. She stared at the 2 circles for a moment, her face clenched with confusion. How far should we go? No more questions, dweebs, be gone. Tyler acted like a king dismissing his servants, only this king had pimples and had never been on a date. Come on, I said. I didn't totally understand the math, but I knew we could figure it out. But Jax stood her ground. I have one more question, Tyler, and I am not going anywhere until you answer it. And you know I'm totally capable of standing here all day in your room bugging you. He groaned. Fine. One more question. You ever heard of Juniper Vandegrift? She's our great aunt. He pressed the mouse and his body jerked. Whoa! Did you see that? I got him right in his one eye. We have a great aunt? I asked. Yeah, she's Mom's and Lindsay's aunt, so that makes her our great aunt. Jax leaned against the desk. How come you know about her and we don't? Because you two were babies when she had the big fight with Aunt Lindsay. He scooted to the edge of his chair. Hey, Walker, that dangling eyeball is a great effect. Thanks, Walker's voice said. What was the fight about? Jax asked. I don't know, but she must have done something bad because our parents said she was never welcome in our family again. Now get lost. You're interrupting the campaign. Watch out, Walker. Forces of chaos invading. The screen filled with splashing blood. Just before I closed the door, Tyler added, Farewell, inferior life forms. My brother is such a sweet guy, I said as we left his cave behind. I expected Jax to add another sarcastic comment, because one of the things that fueled our friendship was our mutual contempt of my brother. But instead, she smiled. This is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. Excitement danced in her brown eyes. We have a great aunt we didn't even know about, and my mom is trying to keep me from opening her present. She wrapped her purple coat around the metal box and hurried down the hall. Come on, let's go catch the next train. Train? Yeah. Jax led the way through my house. She stopped to grab an orange from the fruit bowl. We need to get outside Chatham, for a second reason. For a second reading, and we can't get far enough on our bikes. We'll be back before my mom gets off her shift, and before your parents get home from work. You won't get into trouble, I promise. Where had I heard that before?